Chapter 10. They're all here. Jack opened his eyes. It was so dark he couldn't see anything. He felt his clothes. He was wearing his t-shirt and jeans again. The leather bag had turned back into his backpack. "Hello," said Morgan Le Fay. Her voice came from the corner of the treehouse. "Hi," said Annie. "Did you have a good journey?" asked Morgan.
"I did," said Jack, "but girls can't do anything fun in ancient Greece."
"I did one fun thing," Annie said wistfully. "I rode in a chariot pulled by a flying horse."
"That must have been wonderful," said Morgan. "You were very lucky to be bringing me the story of Pegasus."
"Who?"
said Jack. "Pegasus," said Morgan. "He's the great white-winged horse in Greek mythology."
"Oh, yeah?" said Jack. "I think I've heard of him."
He felt in his backpack and found the scroll. He gave it to Morgan. He could still barely see her in the dark.
"It was written by Anonymous,"
said Annie. "I know," said Morgan. "Many talented women used that name in the past. Her story will be a great addition to my Camelot library."
"Plato helped us find it," said Jack.
"Ah, my good friend Plato," said Morgan. "He was one of the greatest thinkers who ever lived."
"And Pegasus was the greatest horse,"
said Annie. She sighed. "I just wish I could see him again." "You can," Morgan said softly. "He's here right now."
"Pegasus?" cried Annie. "Oh, boy!"
Annie turned on the flashlight and used it to find her way down the rope ladder. Jack grabbed his backpack and followed her. When they were both standing on the ground, Annie shined her light through the dark trees.
"Pegasus, where are you? Pegasus?"
"Turn off your flashlight, Annie," said Morgan. She was looking down from the treehouse window. Annie switched off the light. "In the night, you can see all the story characters that saved you on your last 4 missions," said Morgan. "There they all are. Hercules and the Silk Weaver, Seraph, the Serpent Monster, and Pegasus." Jack pushed his glasses into place and studied the dark woods.
"Where are they, Morgan?" cried Annie. "Where's Pegasus?"
"The card," said Morgan.
"I can't see him,"
said Annie. "Yes, you can. The old stories are always with us. We are never alone."
"Has Morgan gone crazy?" wondered Jack.
"Look up," said Morgan. "Your friends are in the night sky. They are stars."
"Stars?" whispered Jack.
He stared at the shimmering field of tiny stars overhead. "Hercules is a constellation," said Morgan. "The Romans imagined him kneeling in the sky, holding a club over his head." Morgan waved her finger at the sky. For a moment Jack saw a living, breathing Hercules outlined by stars. "And there's the Silk Weaver with her beloved cowherd," said Morgan. "The ancient Chinese believed that there were 2 stars on either side of the Milky Way." Morgan waved her hand again. The lovely Silk Weaver was outlined in the heavens. "And long ago the Irish believed the Milky Way itself was the serpent monster, Seraph," said Morgan. Morgan waved her hand. A giant serpent glittered through the sky. "And the ancient Greeks named one of their constellations Pegasus," she said. She waved her hand again, and the white horse's head, wings, and galloping legs glowed in the sky.
"I see him,"
said Annie. Then she whispered, "I love you, Pegasus." Jack thought he saw the stars move as if Pegasus was rearing back in the sky. After a breathless moment of silence, Morgan lowered her arm. The night sky became a field of tiny, glittering stars again. "You have done amazing work as master librarians," said Morgan. "I would trust you with any important mission."
"Does that mean we're going on more trips?"
asked Jack. "Indeed it does," said Morgan. "Many more." Jack smiled with relief.
"When is our next mission?"
asked Annie. "As soon as I need your help, I will send for you," said Morgan. "Go home now and rest."
"Goodbye,"
said Annie.
"Goodbye,"
said Jack. "Farewell," said Morgan. There was a sudden rushing of wind, then a blur of blinding light, and Morgan Le Fay and the magic treehouse vanished. The night was still. "Home?" asked Annie.
"Sure,"
said Jack. As they walked between the trees, the Frog Creek woods were pitch black. Jack couldn't see a thing, but he didn't ask Annie to turn on the flashlight. For once, he wasn't worried about finding his way home. He felt as if someone or something was leading them through the woods. Morgan's words came back to him. The old stories are always with us. We are never alone. Jack looked up at the stars again. They were beginning to fade in the growing light of dawn, but he thought he could hear the beating of wings somewhere high above. More facts for you. The Olympics. The Olympics of ancient Greece were held for over 1,000 years, from 776 BC to AD 394. Every 4 years, the games were held in several cities, including the town of Olympia, for 5 days in August. The modern Olympics were named after Olympia. For 2 months, all fighting and wars ceased so people could travel safely to and from the Olympics. The first modern Olympics were held in Athens, Greece in 1896. Greek athletes believed that having a physically fit body was a way to honor their chief god Zeus. Olympia's statue of Zeus was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Unfortunately, it no longer exists. Greek language. The word anonymous comes from a Greek word that means nameless. The English language has many words that were originally Greek, especially words having to do with sports such as gymnasium, marathon, and athlete, words having to do with science such as psychology and astronomy, and words relating to the arts such as drama, theater, and scenery. The word museum is also of Greek origin. Over 2,000 years ago, the Greeks built a temple to the 9 goddesses known as the Muses. They called the temple the Museum. Some Greek letters are similar to ours. The Greek A is called alpha. The B is called beta. That's where we get our word alphabet. Democracy. About 2,500 years ago, the Greeks adopted a system of governance called democracy. Under the Greek democracy, all citizens had a say in the government. At that time, however, women and slaves were not considered citizens. Plato. Plato the philosopher lived in ancient Greece in the 4th century BC. Plato founded a school called the Academy. In both his teaching and his writings, Plato explored the best way for a government to be set up. His ideas are still talked about today. Zeus. Zeus was god of the skies and ruler of all the Greek gods and goddesses. Zeus and his family were called Olympians because they lived on top of a mountain called Mount Olympus. The major Greek gods and goddesses were later adopted by the Romans. Zeus was called Jupiter by the Romans. Pegasus. Pegasus in Greek mythology is a great winged horse that sprang from the neck of a snake-haired monster known as Medusa. The horse was named Pegasus, which may come from a Greek word that means spring. Pegasus was tamed by a young man named Bellerophon. Star myths. In ancient times, mythic characters from different world cultures were sometimes identified as patterns of stars in the night sky. Once a hero or heroine took a place in the heavens, he or she became famous forever.